Yo, welcome back to another episode of Diabetics Doing Things. And we are going to change up our monthly roundup episodes instead of just diving into what happened in April. We're going to talk a little bit about Ramadan and specifically Ramadan and diabetes with our very own in-house content creator, Eritrea Khan, our resident expert on Ramadan and diabetes. What
Hi
up?
guys, it's good to be here like I am every month with Rob. I think it's interesting that this month just kind of worked out where we're talking about something that kind of hits really close to home for me. And yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's something that, one of my good friends, we were talking about this maybe 2 years ago. We, on another podcast that I co-host, we're talking about Ramadan and the spirit behind it. And I think what the general public knows and what people who practice Ramadan and celebrate Ramadan, like the way that they look at that, are very different. And I think the spirit behind it is super incredible. And I think just like, doing without and, being grateful, all of those things are, I think just good daily mindfulness practices anyway. And so to see those come through culturally is great. But also, like, there's that hurdle, as always with diabetes. How do you participate in something like this? And to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is something like this type of lifestyle uh, activity, really, or lifestyle adjustment that is obviously very cultural. It's very similar to, like, the problems that other people face, like when they go to weddings, like what do you eat? How do you dose for those things? When you go to summer camp, when you do all of these different activities that are sort of outside of the norm for a good reason, you have to adjust with your diabetes, and Ramadan is no different.
Absolutely. I think that, diabetes exists, we have it, and life continues. Like it doesn't just stop because you got a diagnosis. So it's important to be adaptable to those situations. I think I was diagnosed really young. So I was 8 when I was diagnosed, and I just kind of like a little bit kind of gave up on myself. I just didn't think that I was allowed to even participate. Um, and someone wrongfully told me once that I wasn't allowed to participate at all because I take insulin. Like someone was like,
Mm,
taking injections is breaking your fast. I think I was like 13, and I was just like, great. I already thought I couldn't do this. Now it's confirmed for me. But as I got older, I started like realizing that some diabetics do fast. Obviously, I know lots of Muslims, and because I'm a Muslim, alhamdulillah. So it's just like when you hear about those things, they definitely make you think. And I think that there's so many different ways to fast. Like it's not just about food during Ramadan. And I think that's the misconception, because Ramadan really is about the revelation of the Quran. Like there's a time in Ramadan, the last 10 days, I believe it's the last 10 days, that we call Laylat al-Qadr, where it's like a very holy time of the month because the Quran was revealed to Prophet Muhammad during this time. So that's really the concept, I think, behind Ramadan, is to grow closer to God, because this is when the message of God was revealed to us, fully. But people jump on the you can't eat thing, and then that's
right.
just all they remember, because I feel like that's kind of traumatic to some people. Maybe like the thinking of, oh my God, you can't eat all day. And I know that most Muslims who are like, yeah, I can't eat, people are always just like, even water. And I'm like, they're like, yeah, like they can't drink water. But there's so much more fasting involved. You're fasting from all kinds of things. So
Right. I think, it comes down to sort of lowest common denominator, which is most people on during Ramadan fast food, during the day, right? So
mhm.
that is, I think that's what sticks with people. That's the easiest to understand from an outsider perspective. But like you said, it's not just food, it's not just restrictive eating or drinking, it's giving up things in order to go closer to God, to spend time, during this holy time.
Also, like, there's a lot of action items for you to do. Like reading the Quran is a big one. Like it was revealed during this time. So like taking the time to like really read it from start to end, because it's a pretty long book, friend. It takes some time, Also, to try to stop consuming as much media. I think that's the hard one for me because like I love TV. But it's about really clearing your mind of all these things that are constant distractions for us as Muslims. Like as Muslims throughout the year, we're expected to pray 5 times a day. So like 5 times a day, we're checking in with our creator as it is. That doesn't change during Ramadan. It's just more check-ins, more mindfulness, more reminders that we are not of this dunya, we are not of this earth. Like later on, we're going to another place. And it's important to keep that in mind, not just during Ramadan, but all times of the year. And I think because we don't get those big holidays like Christmas and Halloween and blah, 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 Ramadan's really special to us. So I think when I told, something that came in my DMs was like, someone messaged me and was like, so you and your husband don't have sex during Ramadan? And I was just like, the fast is throughout the day. That's all I'm going to say about that. The fast is throughout the day from sun up to sundown. If people are married, like that's different. So there's so much explanation in the Quran about Ramadan. Like it's all there.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like you said, there's the information is there. If you really wanted to do the research, you could just Google it. It's a pretty great resource for finding out information.
Sometimes, but like there's some stuff that's hidden or like translated in different ways.
Or nuanced.
So exactly. So that's, if you guys have read the blog that I put out for diabetics doing things about Ramadan, that's why I included footnotes if I could, or I included quotes, because I feel like me, I have a Catholic mom. So I wasn't really given the option of religion, but all of the religions were kind of explained to me, and I was baptized. So it's like I grew up very much in the Muslim church as a Muslim, alhamdulillah, but I know about all the other religions. So to me, they're so similar in so many ways, and so much of the scripture, if you will, is the same. So I think that for us as Muslims, like when we remember the Quran, we remember those special things in the Quran that are about us, it kind of is the same as the Bible for you guys. Like when you're like, that quote about the valley of shadows and stuff, like things that make you feel good about God or make you feel not alone. Like it's the same thing in Islam.
Well, and I mean, really, it's almost 40 days. And so in Catholicism, Lent, very similar. You give something up, you try to be more mindful, and it ends with a very spiritual week with Easter, right? So yeah, there's so many parallels, I think, throughout, especially the larger religions in the world, that are, very parallel, and they they come from the same place, right? Like, Ishmael and Abraham, I mean,
Yeah.
and Isaac. So I mean, it's like, I don't know. We can talk about the ideological pieces of it, till we're blue in the face. What, like, for you today though, and we're going to go through your blog, which I really enjoyed, and I read very early in the morning while I was traveling, and so it kind of hit me like it was very personal, and so thank you for opening up and sharing, your
Did you
family.
cry?
I did not cry. I'm not that. Nobody needs to see a white man crying in the airport at 6 a.m.
Hey, as long as you know that.
Yeah, I know. Like today, so you talked about, somebody had asked you about you practicing Ramadan or celebrating Ramadan is really what it is, right? So
Yeah.
today for you, with a person with diabetes, you've got a CGM and an insulin pump, and they talk to each other. And like, so what does your Ramadan look like most of the time today?
So I don't fast. Like I don't at all. I included it in the blog, but when I was learning about Ramadan as a diabetic, I was told that like I'm not supposed to fast, and that like basically putting myself in a bad spot, like risking a hypoglycemia, a bad low, or just risking my life or risking my health for Ramadan was like not allowed, because essentially the way it was explained to me was like, God has allowed these, given you these allowances for a reason. Don't disobey him. Like, don't take those allowances for granted. Personally, I have a Quran that's in English and Spanish. So I try to read it throughout the month, and like just, I remind myself, especially like at nighttime during iftar when Hassan's around, I try to do that. A typical day of Ramadan for us looks like this. So Hassan does typically fast. This year's been a little bit harder for him, but typically he does fast. We wake up early. We do the first prayer. Right now, Fajr prayer is like, it's not that late in the day because it's spring. So I want to say it's right at sun up, which is like, it changes every day. So like we have a calendar in our bedroom that like tells us what time the prayer is every single day. Before he prays, I make food for him so that he gets a chance to eat. And then we pray together. We pray Fajr together. And then he gets ready for work. He starts his fast. He doesn't eat. I continue to eat my meals as normal. And then I just really try my best throughout the day to meet all of my prayers. So it's Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, and Isha, the 5. So I try to meet all my prayers. I don't do it every day. I am not the best Muslim. That's also why I don't really like talking about this stuff, because I feel like I'm not a good representation is how I feel sometimes inside. But anyway, so I try my best to meet all of the prayers. I try my best to eat my food on time and take my insulin. Like I feel like during Ramadan, I'm way more strict on my diabetes because I feel that if I'm allowed to eat, then I should be doing it as best as possible. And I also try to be healthy. So it's not like I'm not overindulging. I'm not eating all of the things that, I want to get because they sound good. I'm just eating the things that I need to stay healthy, to be okay, whatever. Hudson usually comes home from work around like 6:30. Sundown, once sundown happens, right now it's like at 8 o'clock. It's been changing. So I think yesterday was like 8:08, 8:09, something like that. As soon as the sun goes down, he breaks his fast. He'll eat a date, drink some rosa, which is like the pink milk thing. I don't really know how to explain it to you guys. I'm sorry. You have to Google it. It's like a pink drink that they add water or they add milk to. It's really good. And he'll break his fast and then we'll pray. And then after we pray, we'll have a bigger meal. So that's when he'll have his big dinner and I'll eat my regular dinner or whatever. Sometimes after we pray, like it depends if my dad's here, we'll sit where the prayer area is in my house for a little bit longer and maybe talk about like different du'as or different like stories from the Quran. My dad really likes telling stories from the Quran. He loves talking about the Quran. So we could sit there forever and then we'll eat. Sometimes most people who are fasting all day, they don't even eat a lot. Like you would think that you haven't eaten all day, so you're going to eat this little date and you're going to be ravenous. No, bro. Like I watch them and like my dad will have like 3 little samosas and like a tomato and he's like, I'm full. And like 6 glasses of water and he's like, I'm so full. So I guess it kind of is me supporting my family a little bit more during Ramadan. I try to make meals for my dad because him and my mom are separated. So my dad is by himself. So I try to make meals for him that he can just like pop in the microwave and eat for himself while he's there. We do have iftar together. So we'll have dinner together on Sundays with my dad. And then we'll have dinner together with Hassan's side of the family on Mondays. And yeah, so that's kind of what a typical day in Ramadan looks like for me. And now that I'm married and stuff.
No, it's really cool. And thank you for sharing. I think like the family element is super important as well. Just kind of like being close to each other, community as well. And I want to talk a little bit about that because in your blog, you talked about, being around, the community. And you mentioned that you went to Islamic school prior to being diagnosed with diabetes, but your parents transferred you to public school so that you could have access to a school nurse, which obviously like you said earlier, and I think you mentioned this in the blog as well, and it stuck out to me because it's not only like in the Quran, but it's also like in the Bible of like God's not going to give you something that you can't handle, right? Like He'll support
Yeah.
you through it, and and because of that, like you felt that you still felt that like I think you mentioned like Allah was mad at you, and you talked
Yeah, I
to
felt abandoned. I felt abandoned. I mean, at this point, I was diagnosed when I was 8. So at this point, I'm already biracial. Like I'm already not even biracial, multiracial. Black people don't like me when I'm little. Mexican people don't like me because there's the whole racial aspect. White people don't really talk to me. So like I already feel like I don't fit in anywhere. I barely spoke English. Like when I was 8, I'd only been speaking English for like 3 years. So there's that aspect. And then it was just me and my younger brother. So I just felt like everywhere I went, I was alone. Like no other black people, no other Mexican people, no people that get along with me, no other diabetics. Like it just felt like everywhere I looked, and if I looked up, I was like, bro, why are you doing this to me? Like, what did I do? What did my parents do? I spent so much time asking myself, did I do something wrong? And I think that when
Mm.
you're a small child, to be so ingrained in religion, like so ingrained, it's hard. Like it's hard because like I had the Catholicism aspect of it, which is the mea culpa of everything is your fault. So there was a lot of confusion there for me as a small child and also learning how to be a diabetic. Like it just was a lot. So I didn't understand why he was giving me so many trials at an early age. Now that I'm older, I'm definitely thankful. Like life isn't easy for anybody, but as a child, I was perplexed.
well, diabetes makes you grow up a lot faster than normal kids. You're all of a sudden really aware of your own mortality and you're taking care of yourself. You're acting like a pancreas for yourself, right? Making decisions that you didn't have to make before and that your friends don't have to make for themselves. um and that's difficult. That's a huge adjustment. And then I think, like you said, when you grow up religious like both of us did, and you're trying to be a good Muslim or a good Christian, or try to do right, and you feel like something's holding you back, and it's also part of you that you can't control, that can feel really isolating.
Absolutely. Yeah, no. I've said this before on the podcast, I think, or maybe I've said it to you, but there's definitely something about eldest daughter syndrome, like when you're the eldest daughter of immigrants, because like on top of that, I was the primary, like, even though I'd only been speaking English for a few years, I was the primary English speaker. I was the one helping my parents fill out paperwork. I was the one taking care of my younger siblings. Like, it just was a lot. So that's why I was kind of mad at God. Like, you mad at me? That's cool. We have beef. Like, I'm mad at you too. So when I was asking all of those questions, because after they took me out of Islamic school, my parents still kept me in Sunday school. It was really important to my dad that we speak Arabic, which, alhamdulillah, I don't really, but I can understand what people are saying to me. So we stayed in Sunday school, and I got really lucky that my Islamic teacher from regular Islamic school, he was in our Sunday school also. But his name was Brother Hassan. We remember him very fondly. I think he's still alive. So if he hears this, shout out to you, sir. He made Islam so fun. He wrote songs for us to learn and would tell us all these things. And when I asked all these questions that, like, is God mad at me? Like, why is he doing this to me? To be told that God's not mad at me at all, and that he actually thought about me, and he like considered me before I was even ever born. Like, that thinking makes you feel a little bit special, like in a way. It's like, oh wow, like he remembered me. Like, I'm actually not just forgotten, or even like the bad, because in Islam, like every religion culture is different. So in every culture, people believe different things, right? And in my blog, I wrote about how Brother Hassan tells me that there's going to be times when I get older that I won't be able to pray, right? And I don't really explain this in the blog, but I'll explain it now. When I did get older, someone told me, like, as women, you're not supposed to pray when you're on your period because it's dirty. Someone explained it to me that way. And my dad later explained to me, he's like, absolutely not. Like, that's absolutely incorrect. Like, that's not what it is at all. God wants you to have a break. And because the person who had told me was like, you can't even touch the Quran when you're on your period. Like, that's disgusting. And my dad was like, you can touch the Quran. Like, that's not accurate. Like, it says so right here. So there's just so much stigma and shame and cultural things that can come into play that can be a bit confusing for a kid. So I'm glad that I had someone guide me and tell me, like, no, you're good. You're not even supposed to be fasting. I had such a strong foundation of what I'm supposed to be doing during Ramadan. Like, that to me, that's not lost on me, that I feel okay about Ramadan. I'm not sad about it. Like, so I know so many diabetics who feel so sad about it. So there's that.
Talk to me a little bit, because I mean, you said you know so many. Is some of that just because of diabetes stigma in Arab culture? Do we want to talk about that?
It's not so much stigma. It's just like this assumption that you're not fasting because you don't want to, or this assumption that you're not fasting because you're a bad diabetic, or this assumption that you're not willing to risk your life for God. Like, it's just because truly that's what happens. And I think me and my husband talk about this, but and it's also in a Hassan Minaj special, but like in Islam, the big thing, and in the culture is the big thing is, what will people say? What will people say? What will people say? People need to mind their business. My dad used to straight up tell people, like, I'm paying for zakat for my daughter. Like, I'm feeding a village in Africa because she can't fast. So mind your freaking business. Like, leave her alone. So I think that there needs to be, because I know that we value modesty and we value respect and we value being kind to one another. But for some reason within our own community, we don't do that. Instead, someone will call so-and-so and be like, did you hear Eritrea is not fasting this year? Like, why? Why? You don't even know my life or my situation. So I just really try to mind my business as much as I can during Ramadan and support the people who are fasting. I don't know. That's really all I can do. Like, I see how my mother-in-law is, who's also a type 2 diabetic, and how much she cares for her family and feeds them and takes care of them. And she doesn't fast either. She's been a Muslim her entire life. She's from Pakistan. Like, so it's just like, there's so much judgment in every religion. It's just the communities are like that. So I don't think that's around diabetes stigma. I think that's just people being mean.
Yeah. And I mean, C.S. Lewis, I think, said this about Christianity. I'm sure it's true in Islam as well, is that the main problem with Christianity is Christians, because we're people, and because we're people, we make mistakes, and we are prone to, the sins of the flesh or what have you. So it's like, we gossip, we're mean to each other, we don't see the full picture. All of those things are true of people. And when people get together, they butt heads, they have differences, and that's just sort of part of being a human, I guess.
Humanity,
Man.
I mean, it's intense. It can be.
I think though too, like, I think you also compare yourself, comparison culture is everywhere. So, you want to believe that if you're making this big sacrifice and, not eating during the sunlight hours for over a month, that, you're going to get something because of that. And then you see somebody who also believes what you believe and they're not doing that. Like, I think that there could be some just sort of whataboutism that kind of
There's so many
creeps in.
caveats to that. Like, think about it, because okay, so I'll tell you a small story. When I was younger and I lived at home and I was already a diabetic, my dad would fast. And if something bad would happen and I would start to tell him like, Dad, this happened, like I got in trouble, whatever, he would immediately hold up his hand and be like, Stop, Eritrea, I am fasting. I do not want to break my fast. Because you cannot be mean to people while you're fasting. It's part of the thing. Like, you have to remain respectful. You have to remain nice. And if you are mean to people, you just broke your fast, buddy. Like, that's
Right. You're fasting from those like
you're fasting from
fleshly
being
desires, which is, being, mean or,
unkind.
right.
Backbiting is a big one in Islam. We do a lot of it. Everybody knows we do a lot of gossiping, but backbiting is a big one. We're not supposed to do that. Like, I think I was telling my dad something like last week. He was like, "Stop! Don't tell me. You can't tell me right now. Tell me later." And I was just like, "Oh yeah, you're fasting. I'm not even supposed to be talking about it because technically, I'm doing my own kind of fast." So it's just constant mindfulness during Ramadan that you are a Muslim, that you are grateful, that you are thankful, and that's basically the idea around it. If you kind of eliminate food.
It's really interesting. I had a conversation for the first time with a man who practices Islam, and he has diabetes, and he's followed me for a number of years. I think he had replied to like one story a couple of years ago, and yesterday he responded to the Ramadan story, and he was like, "Oh, this is really cool. I'd love to read more." I was like, "Cool." I sent him the link to the blog, and because people sort of sometimes disconnect that diabetics doing things in my platforms are the same, but um, he was like, "Oh yeah, I wear a Medtronic pump, and so I'm able to use auto mode during the day, and I do fast. Previously, I wasn't able to before I had a CGM or a pump." And he's like, "I think it's really dangerous to do that. You could have like really bad highs or really bad lows, and you just don't know because you don't have that option." He's like, "But now I'm able to fast really easily during the day." He's like, "Unfortunately, when I break my fast because I've been getting less insulin, my insulin needs go up. So I have to he's like, my carb ratios, he's like, I have to take myself out of auto mode and I have to kind of do a manual, like at 135% basal is I think the number that he used." And I was like, "Look at that. Like you figured it out." And he's like, "Yeah, I do it. It's cool to know, what's happening in my body. I'm mindful of that." And he's like, "I'm also able to do something that I couldn't do for a long time. And I feel like a better Muslim because of it." I just felt like that was a really, I don't know, because you have this experience and because you were able to write this really personal and very good story. Somebody else, it resonated with somebody, which is great, and it's just cool to be able to see people with diabetes are everywhere. And some of us will never face the problem of how to figure out Ramadan, but many of us will. So, I think, knowing and normalizing that there's different ways to do this is so important. And also just to be like, hey, if somebody is trying to figure out diabetes in Ramadan, maybe they'll be able to find this blog, this podcast, what have you, and, get information that they need.
Yeah, we had a takeover happen last year with Muhammad from Palestine in Gaza.
Yeah.
Muhammad is fasting. Like Muhammad Sayam, shout out Muhammad, good friend of the pod. But like some people do it, and I have no judgment for these people. If you want to do that, may Allah give you all of the rewards and may you reap them on the day of judgment. But like for me and mine, this is how I feel safe. And I think everyone should be allowed to make that decision. And we should just support and love one another. Whatever decision you come to, hey, I want to fast from food and I can do it safely without hurting myself, takbir. Like, I'm happy for you. I'm so happy. So with all that being said, like I wish everyone the best Ramadan. And I know that this last year has been so hard. This is our second Ramadan during COVID. So another year where we can't really gather at the mosques together or really celebrate, feel safe. But I'm thinking for Eid that maybe some of the mosques will be back open and things will be back to normal. My favorite thing about the Irving Masjid is during Eid, they would have like, they bring horses out and would be like little ride the horses and like they have a whole fair, like cotton candy, like straight up like little kid fun stuff. So I don't know if for anybody listening, if you have like, I don't know, a bad stigma about Muslims, or you just think that like, we're not normal, like, bro, we like to have fun. We're normal people. It's all the same. Like we're all people. So yeah, it's all love.
Yeah. And, let's be fair. Most of the people who listen to this podcast are not Muslim, and they may not have Muslims or people who in
Or
their
no
life
Muslims,
or
be
know
friends
them,
with
right?
them.
And I
Yeah.
think I was very lucky early on. I've told this story before, probably on the pod, but when I spent that 5 weeks in the Middle East, in Bahrain and Afghanistan and Kuwait and all these places, rich Muslim heritage, and getting to go stand in a grand mosque, one of the, I guess, 5 or 6 throughout the Middle East, like these pillars of Islam. It was really impactful and stuck with me as like a very reverent spiritual place, and also really respectful and open and inviting. And I just remember, I'll never forget like feeling so welcome there. And it just made me really remember how Muslim people in America are not always welcome. And I remember meeting a guy in Singapore, um, in the Dior store, um, and he was like, we were just talking, chopping it up, and he found out, obviously, like, knew me and my buddies were from America, and he was asking about America, and he's like, can I ask you something? And I think it was 2015. He's like, I don't mean any offense. He's like, but if my wife and I wanted to come visit the United States, like, do you think that that's safe? And it took me aback a little bit, like it kind of, and I was like, at first, like my first response was like, oh yeah, of course it's safe. And then I was like, maybe in some places it's not. And I was like, if I was you and your wife really wanted to come to the United States, I would recommend visiting like New York or California, and big cities that are melting pots of culture.
Jersey.
You say what?
Jersey. There's so many Arabs in Jersey.
Yeah, or Irving, right? But I think it's just those places that are, I think, more of a melting pot and more of a a port city, so to speak, so that you get sort of the Western experience, but with a lot of other cultures infused. But it really made me stop and think that especially even in the years after, in the past 4 years, especially, like, being Muslim in America is a burden, and I think it carries a huge stigma along with it. And people are unfairly treated. It's definitely one of the toxic side effects of Western culture.
It can be a burden, especially because of what happened in 2001, because our government decided to do things the way that they decided to do things. And Islamophobia is so real. Like, I don't think people consider the impacts of what they're saying and how making light of other human beings' culture dehumanizes them as a people. So when you, like, the fact that people think Muslim is a race, like, I've had people walk up to me like, oh, you're Muslim, so you're from Jordan. What? Like, what? It's a religion. Like, if someone says, hey, I'm a Jew, I would not assume you're from Israel. Like, I'm not gonna, oh, where are you from? Like, so I think that there's been a miseducation of the American public about Islam, and there's been a misrepresentation of what Islam may be, because the people who blew up those towers at 9/11 are not Muslims. Like, those people are fanatics. Those people are weirdos. Those people are not, like, you cannot be a Muslim and say you love Allah and kill people. That's not, doesn't rhyme. Doesn't vibe, jive, whatever. So I think that when we say that there's a burden to be a Muslim, I would say that that's inaccurate. I would say that it is a burden that the Americans were educated the wrong way, because being a Muslim is a blessing. When people ask us in Islam, are you a Muslim? Immediately the answer is alhamdulillah, yes. Like, thank God I am a Muslim. Like, it's literally the default response. So I want us to be careful when we say it's a burden to be that, because in our religion, we believe that if you die as a martyr, like, if I was murdered because I died, for somebody killed me because I was a Muslim, I'm going to heaven. And like, that's not a burden for me. Like, for me, that's a blessing. I died as a martyr for my religion, whatever. So I just want to, like, say that, because I don't want any Muslim people to come for you, because I don't think you meant it that way.
No.
But it is unfair that things are the way they are. I've told the story on the podcast of why my family went to Germany before I got diagnosed, is because 9/11 happened and the masjid got literally shot up. Like, literally someone came to a mosque where children pray and shot an AK-47 through all of the windows of the ISI masjid on Esther's Road. Like, that happened. So all my family doesn't live here. Like, all of my dad's family lives in Germany and Cairo. Like, nobody lives in America but us. Why? Because it's not safe to be here all the time. So that's a real thing for some people. And my brother and I have asked my dad before, like, why don't we live in Germany? Because Germany is really cool. They let you do all kinds of stuff there. You can become a real citizen and people aren't getting shot every day. So it is something to think about. Like, it is something that Muslims have to ask themselves. Also, think about it. Like, anytime we've flown in the airport together, like Hassan gets pulled out over and searched, like
Every time.
head to toe every time. When he was coming back from Pakistan, he got held at the airport for like 19 hours. Like the type of racism that is happening towards Muslims in this country every day is barbaric. So yeah, I just wish there was more education out there. So I'm glad that we're doing our part as far as diabetics go to educate a little bit more about this specific holiday so that we can all be a little bit more mindful of those Muslim people in our lives. Because I can guarantee that there are people who listen to this podcast who have friends who are Muslim and they don't know that they're Muslim because that person hasn't disclosed it for whatever reason, or they're afraid to, or whatever.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. And I think, if we're going to continue to perpetuate the idea, for people with diabetes, that whatever dream you have for your life is in reach, if that is practicing Ramadan or celebrating Ramadan, do that your way. You know what I mean? And I think that's an important part of what we have to do, continuing to just talk about different lifestyles and understand that people have different goals and want to do different things. And they should be able to do that. And, just like you are, just like the man who messaged me is, finding a way to make Ramadan work around diabetes.
Absolutely. Thanks for asking me about it. I almost included that in my caption last night, but I forgot because I was like, man, I really cried when you asked me to write it. Like nobody's ever asked me before. Like nobody seems to care. Like they're just like, oh, there's Eritrea doing her thing. And so to have someone be like, hey, this is actually something that we should talk about and it's important. And like, I don't know, that was really beautiful. So I appreciate that, Rob. I appreciate the opportunity to share this special holiday with our platform and have other Muslims be a part of our platform. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I think I didn't do much. Yeah, so I think having that space, we have this platform. Let's have these conversations. That's what we're trying to do. And I think it really helped. I got to give credit to my good friend Muyad for educating me on Ramadan and making me, and honestly making it seem and feel like something that you would want to be a part of and that I would want to be a part of. It's like the celebration and the mindfulness and the gratitude. It's like, man, this is such a valuable thing. And I think more people like me who are not Muslim need to hear about it and need to understand that there's so much more to Ramadan than just fasting.
Yeah. And Eid is cool. Eid is so awesome. I'm so excited. We always get money. Hassan's parents always give us money because we're younger, and then we have to give money to the younger. So that's how it works. Like you get a cash envelope. So I love Eid, like Ramadan, Eid, all of it. Give me all of it.
Nothing you like better than cash in an envelope,
Hey,
right?
all I love is that money. I just shut up.
We had, anyway, I think it's cool. I hope that other communities and are ready to start celebrating things like Eid, things that bring people together, things that make people happy. Like you said, kids running around, hanging out with each other. I'm hopeful that those things are going to be all coming back soon. We still got a little ways to go, and obviously want to continue to be safe. But I'm excited for little things like that. It doesn't have to always be a huge mountaintop moment, but just the community getting together, having a good time and celebrating something worthwhile.
Yeah, we had a bunch of other things happen in April, not just Ramadan, just other stuff.
Yeah, we did.
You're just like looking at me like, what?
No, I think it's important. This week especially, I put out this statement on my Instagram. I don't want to go too far into it as much, but just advocating for access to affordable insulin for people with diabetes is important to this pod, is important to me. And, Beyond Type 1 wrote a letter on the other side of that. I don't agree with that. And I put that statement out. So if you want to know like how we feel about that, people deserve access to insulin, point blank, full stop. And whatever we can do to, advocate and tell people that and to continue to push that agenda forward, we're going to continue to do it. I actually have an email in my inbox with some representatives to email some stuff to in Texas. So that's what I'm going to be doing sometime this weekend. And that work is not super sexy and it's not super exciting and not a mountaintop moment, but it's very important. And I think that the people who are doing that kind of grassroots advocacy on the front lines, I look up to you guys and have a ton of respect for you. So want to continue to support those people. So anyway, access to insulin is a human right. We got to continue to push that until everybody can get it for free.
Absolutely. We all deserve insulin if we need it. Like, it shouldn't be something that's legitimately killing folks. There's a worldwide problem, not just here. So definitely there are people who are always letting us know about the bad things that the orgs are doing. And I absolutely do sometimes appreciate it, but sometimes it can be a lot. So for people who were getting like a lot of it, I feel for you guys. I appreciate all the work that you do behind the scenes. I think that's kind of something that, like you said, isn't sexy. So a lot of people don't get to see all the work that you're doing. And I feel a lot of compassion for you because people do come for you and a lot of our friends. And I just feel like, man, like sometimes it's just not fair. So,
oh, don't feel bad for me. I'm good. But
he's like, I don't need your pity.
No, I really don't. But I think at the same time, like it just, I think you gotta do what's right, and you gotta stand up for what you believe in, even when people that you work with or you're close to disagree. And at the same time, you don't just drop and run or abandon those people. And in this instance, that was an option. We explored that.
Absolutely.
And right now I'm not in a position to, or my position that I took is that I'm going to stay in and use my voice to try to be heard and hopefully make a difference for people. So
absolutely. And I think you are, I think you're doing what you can. We did some other stuff in April though. I wasn't talking about that, but okay. We had a takeover. We had a takeover from Jamaica that I thought was so awesome. Alexia is an amazing person and did such a great job.
Wagwan, Alexia, Wagwan.
What is it? Big up yourself. That's the only thing I know how to say it. I feel so inappropriate saying it. I don't know.
Big up yourself, Alexia. That's
oh my God.
I can't wait to post that episode. The Jamaica love was so much fun.
What is can you give me your best what is it? Chet Banks? Is it Chet Hanks?
Chet Hanks.
Yeah, give me your best. Give me your best white boy summer.
No. You're not getting that out of me. I know better than that.
I want that little that voice clip so I can replay it to you all the time.
No. Not gonna get that out of me. Not today.
So is it a white boy summer for you? I don't even know what that means. Can you explain your culture to me, please?
Is that my culture? I need to learn more about it. I don't know. I think if white boy summer is wearing short shorts and 90s tees, then yeah, absolutely. It is a white boy summer, I guess.
Oh my God.
I don't know. That'll be interesting.
But yeah, so that takeover was amazing. Her recap is coming, so you guys will be able to watch it on our Instagram TV stories. That's like on the grid thing. Her blog is up though, so if you want to read that. And then we also did do an interview with Miss Sydney Williams. That was awesome. She talked to us all about her hiking, her feelings. Her Instagram is hiking your feelings. I think she's great.
And she also did a cool challenge called Take a Hike Diabetes, and it's still going on. They're trying to hike 1 million miles for type 1 diabetes or diabetes research, not just type 1, but diabetes in general, diabetes awareness. That really awesome. Sydney's super cool. I'm not a huge hiker, but I do occasionally will dabble. But
I can't believe you don't hike. You're so tall. Can't you just like walk a mile in, I don't know, 3 minutes, just huge step after huge step?
I don't know. I'm not a super outdoorsy guy. I like to pretend to be one, but I'm just,
just the basketball court. That's it, right?
Yeah, for sure. I'm a city boy for sure.
You're such a bougie person. He's so bougie. You probably go glamping.
I sleep on a bed. I like to sleep on a bed. What do you mean? Is that bougie, sleeping on a bed? Maybe.
No, but I'm just saying, like, you don't know anything about hiking. Like, even I know about hiking. You don't have like chacos or hiking shoes or
Erica has chacos. I've given, I'm embarrassed of them, but I don't like people's feet. I don't like seeing feet. Feet are nasty.
I think it's because you're so tall that you don't have to see your own feet all the time. Maybe is that what it is?
Well, I'm not far enough away from my feet that I don't see.
Are you
them.
sick of my tall jokes? Okay, I'll stop.
It's fine, but no, like, I don't know what I don't. April was fine. I'm glad, we're gonna continue to move forward. Got a great episode. It keeps getting put through. It keeps getting put through like legal review because I've got to change a couple things, but we got a great episode coming up with Chris Leeper. It'll be dropping here in May, and
great takeover coming from Sydney Williams happening next week. Another great takeover we're going to be doing is a Ramadan takeover. So our dear friend Noor Al Ramahi will be taking over the account. Surprisingly, Noor is in Jordan right now. She is an American. She actually has been living all over the United States, traveling with her kids. Like, you know how a lot of people did that during quarantine. So she's been doing that with her kids. And now she's in Jordan for, I guess, the holiday. And so she's going to be taking over our account and telling us about how she fasts all the way in Jordan. So that's going to be super cool. I'm really excited for that.
Me too. I
It's
love
gonna
when
be
we
great.
go global. I love seeing how people live around the world. It's always so similar, you
Hey, and
know?
I'm going global now. So y'all gonna have to catch me. I'm gonna be all over the place. So
Yeah, where are you going? Because I just took my first trip. I went to Florida, the exotic land of Florida. But
oh my
where are
God.
you going? Give us the
Um,
Eritrea travel update.
I'm going to Seattle in a few weeks to see my DBFF. So I have a diabetic best friend forever. Her name's Taylor. Shout out Taylor. She had a baby on New
Oh my
Year's
gosh, how
Eve.
fun!
I know she had a baby on New Year's Eve, and I have not met her newborn. And like she and I are literally like this. So we're just so close. It's crazy to me that I haven't met her baby. So I'm going up there as soon as possible to meet him. I just booked my flight today, and then I also booked my flight to Cairo. So I'll be in Egypt on November 19th. I'll be in Egypt for about a week and a half, and then I'll be in Germany the other half, and I'll be back in Dallas in December. So I'm really excited to see all my family, see my little sister, hang out. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be great.
That'd be super
Probably
cool.
be more places between then, but I'm really stoked about Egypt, guys. Like I'm so excited. You said you've been to the Middle East? Have you been? That's
I've never been. I
Africa.
almost got to go. My friend Miriam's family lives in Egypt, and I almost went just for the holidays with them one year. But no, I've never been. Always wanted to go.
You're married now. I'd be like, come through, bro.
Yeah.
Oh well.
So, yeah, who knows? Erica and I are trying to figure out what our honeymoon's going to look like. So one of these
I was
days,
about to say,
one of
y'all
these
need to
days we'll take one.
plan that. Y'all need to Ritz Carlton it out.
Yeah, that's my love language. Mr. Bougie over here.
We'll see what
Uh,
happens in May. It's going to be a good month. I'm excited for all the diabetics doing things to come.
yeah, it's going to be good. I'm excited. We're going to keep on doing this. And, above all, I think just keep on doing things, keep on building each other up, and we'll see you guys next month.
Bye.